So it is 1 p.m. in the UK, it's 2 p.m. in Cameroon, and we're just around our start time. I'd like us to begin. So hello and welcome everybody to the Passports Beyond Borders Study Abroad series. Today we will be discussing studying in the USA. This is our very third session for this series, which will be running over the next couple of months. And so far we have covered studying in Russia. We've also covered studying in Canada, and now we are exploring studying in the United States of America. So I hope you all have come ready for this session. I know a few people are going to be joining us later because we had quite a good number register. So I hope you all have come ready for the session of today because it's going to be very, very informative. And I plan for this session to run for approximately 2 hours. And I hope that we're going to stay within the time. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And just before we proceed, can you please put in the chat box where exactly you're watching us or where exactly you're listening or following us from, so we can give a massive shout out to you. So please pop in the comment section or in the chat box to be precise. I am coming to you today from Aberdeen in Scotland, and I know there's so many different regions that are represented here in the session today. So it's a pleasure to have you all. Thank you so much again for joining us. You may already know that studying abroad is one of the best ways to acquire global skills, and which will also open you up to personal and professional opportunities. Hi there, Stella. Oh, hi there, Molekwa from South Africa. It's good to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today. So you may already know that studying abroad is one of the best ways to acquire skills, which will open you up to personal and professional opportunities. And this experience is so life-changing for many people, and we're referring to students here. But however, studying abroad builds you in such a way that you have more understanding and tolerance towards other people. I'm sure Steven is going to confirm that later during the session, how studying abroad has impacted him or how it has changed his life for better. But before we begin, I would like to introduce myself. I am Kimberly. I'm Kimberly Fomundam, and I am the host of today, and I'm also the founder of Passports Beyond Borders, which is a media and travel platform primarily, I specify on the word primarily, catering for the needs of international students and expatriates. And our goal is to provide these groups of people with the information that is necessary or relevant to them to make the integration seamless in a foreign country. We are also in the process of building a community of people who desire to see other people succeed. So when you go to a foreign country, we have a community in that country who will be able to provide you with tips and resources, to enable you succeed in that destination or that country where you are localized. And we are also in the process of partnering with top organizations to bring opportunities closer to you. And we share this information through our website and also through our email list. So it's very important that you are a part of the community so you can get firsthand or be updated firsthand when we have something new to share with the community. So I'm really so excited about this session. Like I mentioned earlier, it's going to be very informative, and there's also going to be a very special package at the end of the session. So I encourage you to stay till the end because somebody at the end of the session is going to benefit massively from something which we're going to announce at the end of the session. So our next speaker, who I'm going to introduce, is Dr. Bosede. Hi, Dr. Bosede, you're welcome to this session today. Dr. Bosede is an education expert, and she's also a researcher. She's a trainer and an entrepreneur who studied in Malaysia for her PhD. She is privately working and building a research network consisting of scholars called Global Trends Academy, with the aim of promoting research and collaboration linkages between African scholars and the rest of the world. Welcome, Dr. Bosede, again. So we have another speaker. He's called Mr. Roland Fomundam. I hope he's here. He was planning to join us a bit later. So when he comes, he's gonna say hello. So Mr. Roland Fomundam is the founder and CEO of Greenhouse Ventures Cameroon, which is a project to revolutionize the way agriculture is done in Cameroon and across Africa. Mr. Roland Fomundam also studied in the United States of America, and his story is so unique because it has so many different aspects to it, and studying in the United States changed him for the better. So he's going to be sharing his story with us today. We also have Mr. Steven Foryoung. Hi, Steven, you're welcome again. Steven is a computer engineering student at UC Berkeley, and he will be sharing his experience. He'll introduce himself when the time comes, and he will be sharing his experiences, or I will be asking you questions around your experiences. So thank you so much for joining us, Steven. So without further ado, I think we should get straight into why we are here today so we can save time. It's, like I mentioned, it's going to be very informative. I hope you have your pen and paper ready because there's going to be lots of notes to take down. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over the session to Dr. Bosede, who's going to be presenting to us how we can be able to accomplish our study abroad dreams in the United States of America. Thank you and welcome, Dr. Bosede.
Thank you and good evening from here. I'm speaking from Malaysia and it's 9:07 p.m. here. I know it's afternoon over there for many of you. Let me say Happy New Year to everyone on the call, and maybe when others join to be saying hello to them. It's been a nice time sharing together with everyone in this forum, which started last year. Like Kimberly said, we had I think about 2 or 3 sessions of this last year. And today I'm hoping more people can benefit from both the presentation, the sharing time with scholars who are on the call, and the offer that Arrows or OT Consulting is presenting at the end of today's webinar. So thank you very much. I believe I've been well introduced. I'm going to be sharing my screen. I hope I have permission to do that.
Yeah, I think you do.
Okay, let me attempt that. Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, I can.
Oh.
We can.
Okay, so welcome again to everyone. I'm very happy to be here. It's always a delight whenever I have the opportunity to share about things that can help people to study abroad. I was an international student as well a few years back, and I always tell people if I know 10% of the things that I know now, I think things would have been a lot different. But we went through, struggled through, and then I felt like this is a good opportunity to help others navigate the waters of going abroad to study, especially students from African countries. And it was a pleasure when PBB came up with this idea of partnership. So welcome again to the webinar. So my name is Bosede Edwards, as I've been introduced. I'm based in Malaysia. I'm a senior consultant with OT Consulting and Arrows Education. I'll be introducing them in a moment. But this will be the highlight of my presentation. There is so much to say, but I will try to, since I already know there are 2 people who have studied and are studying in the US at the moment. So I want to believe that their experience is going to add a lot to what we are going to be sharing. So I may just go over certain things quickly so that we can save our time. So I'm going to be making an introduction of OT Consulting and what Arrows cover. And then I'll speak briefly about why study or why not study in the USA, and a brief overview of the American college system, how to choose universities or courses or whatever, and then the entry requirements and admission. I think that will be the longest part of my presentation because I'll be talking about documentations, which is where a lot of students have problems. And then at the end of my presentation, I'll present the special offer for tonight. And like PBB said, for those who stay till the end, they will be getting this offer, which I think is the biggest offer that Arrows has made in recent times. Okay, so this is Salty Consulting. We are an education outfit, and this is just the structure of our organization. Arrows Education is focused on admission services, and we cover K-12 to PhD, while Global Trends Academy is the arm that takes care of research. So we do research consulting for PhD students, masters by research students, organizations, and any person that is working on research and you need consultancy. So everything that we do revolves around education. So this is just what our organization looks like. Okay, so about our coverage, these are the countries covered by Arrows Education as far as study abroad is concerned. This is about 25 different countries that we are covering at the moment. We are still talking with some other countries. I think right now I know that we're talking with Israel, because a number of people have been asking about Israel. So hopefully, maybe next webinar, maybe we'll have some, we'll have that tidied up. Okay, so I decided to color code these countries so that you can have an overview of what is available from each country. The countries in blue color are countries where, as an international student, you have the opportunity of studying and working at the same time. And when you graduate, there is a post-graduation work policy that you can take advantage of. Those are the ones in blues. But the ones in dark blue are countries that are English speaking, while the ones in the lighter blue color are those that are non-English speaking, but they have English programs available. So you can choose to study in English, but then they will have a lot of opportunities that are only available to those who study in the local language, but you can choose to study in English. So Singapore is in a class by itself, although it's an English-speaking country with all the opportunities of studying and working and then post-graduation work, but also provides student loan to international students. I think it's about the only country that does that, on the condition that you take the loan and after graduation, you have to stay and work and pay back your loan. I'm not sure if there's any other country that provides international students with such an advantage. So that's about Singapore, but then you have to pay your first year tuition and register as a student before you can access that opportunity. So if you want to take advantage of that, Singapore may be it for you. The countries in green are non-English speaking. They have the English programs as well, but the study and work opportunity or the post-graduation work permit is conditional. So it doesn't come with your admission automatically. You have to make a separate application or a process for it. Malaysia and Thailand are non-English speaking. They have English programs, zero work study opportunities, so to say, and as well as post-graduation work permit. But for Malaysia, for international students who do bachelor's program, you have the privilege of staying doing something like the co-op that is offered in Canada. You have the opportunity. It's called I think industrial attachment or something like that. So industrial training. So in the course of doing that, many students do have the privilege of connecting with opportunities like jobs that can give them a work visa so they can stay back. But standard work, post-graduation work permit is not available. And then this small box on the right is the post-graduation work policies from country to country. New Zealand and Canada have work 1 to 3 years, depending on how long your course is. So if you study for 1 year, you can have a 1 year post-graduation permit. You study for 3 years, you can have 3 years. US is between 6 months and 3 years, depending on your course. UK up to 2 or 3 years. Germany, 18 months, and then Singapore and China, 1 year post-graduation work permit. So those are our coverage at the moment. So you can take advantage of any one of them. Okay, I'm making this disclaimer on behalf of Arrows Education. Arrows Education is a licensed international student recruitment agent for universities, colleges, and schools in about 25 countries, like I've mentioned. But Arrows is not a visa awarding body or a certificate or degree awarding institution. We're not a visa granting organization or licensed visa agent. And what that means for you is that Arrows cannot promise you visa. Visa is 100% the prerogative of the consular officer of the country of your study. He can decide to give or not give you. What we do is to support you in a way that will make sure that you are putting your best foot forward and you have, the best chance ever to get a visa. Okay. Why you should study in the US or why you should not study in the US? There are many factors to consider, but I think I came across this video, somebody shared it with me, and I felt like this will answer your question in ways that I may not even be able to present it. This man is former President Ronald Reagan of America, and this is his last speech while he was leaving office. I'm going to just let you listen to maybe about a minute of his speech, so you can think about America the way an American would like you to think about it. Please do let me know if you can hear the audio. Let me check that as well. I'm not sure if, okay, yeah, let me share the sound. So I'm just going to play a part of it and then I'll stop it when I feel it's
Since this is the last speech that I will give as president, I think it's fitting to leave one final thought, an observation about a country which I love. It was stated best in a letter I received not long ago. A man wrote me and said, "You can go to live in France, but you cannot become a Frenchman. You can go to live in Germany or Turkey or Japan, but you cannot become a German, a Turk, or Japanese. But anyone from any corner of the earth can come to live in America and become an American." Yes, the torch of Lady Liberty symbolizes our freedom and represents our heritage, the compact with our parents, our grandparents, and our ancestors. It is that lady who gives us our great and special place in the world. For it's the great life force of each generation of new Americans that guarantees that America's triumph shall continue unsurpassed into the next century and beyond. Other countries may seek to compete with us, but in one vital area, as a beacon of freedom and opportunity that draws the people of the world, no country on earth comes close. This, I believe, is one of the most important sources of America's greatness. We lead the world because, unique among nations, we draw our people, our strength, from every country and every corner of the world.
Okay. That's the summary of what I would have loved to tell you, and I believe you heard from him. That is America presented in the best summary that I've had in a long time. So if you choose to study in America, I think you're giving yourself one of the best opportunities in the world. So that's what I'll say about that. There are a few important considerations to think of when you decide to study in America. Think global. Put practicality before desirability. That's what I always tell, especially if you're going for a bachelor's program. It's okay to have big names, but will that pay the bills? That's what is important. After your study, will you be able to get a job with what you want to study? That should be the most important thing. Study and work opportunities, are they available to you? Because not every university provides that. There are universities that are licensed to provide that. And if you make a mistake of applying to one that is not accredited for that, then there might be a problem. So post-graduation work permit also goes that way. So I'll say review national needs and local needs before making your choice. Choose programs that have work experience content. And then if your goal is to get PR or citizenship at the end of the day, then think about that form before you start your application. Do your research, do your homework. I think that's one of the most important things you need to consider. And this is just the average timelines and costs for those who, so what I try to do here is to make sure that I think through the kind of questions that people ask and then make this presentation in line with that so that we don't have too many questions at the end of the presentation. So processing timeline, I would say for you, you may be able to process admission within a few weeks, but the processing timeline I'm presenting here is between your application and your targeted resumption date. Give yourself time in case of anything. Sometimes you may need to provide additional documentations that you don't have control over. So you need to put some time. So if, for example, you want to study, you want to resume your study by September this year, by now you should be working seriously on your application, or you could have even started since last year. Because sometimes spots get filled up and you won't be able to find a spot in the university that you want to attend. So I think that's an advice that you can take advantage of. Average costs, yes, goes from something as low as $7,500 to $35,000, depending on how much you're willing to spend. Living expenses can be between $8,000 and $13,000. So it depends on where you're studying at and where you live. Exact values will depend on the course you're studying, the program, like bachelor's or master's or PhD, or the institution you are studying at. So those are important things. But just to give you a rough idea, it will then. So let's look at the American college system. So let's start. We have these few things to consider if you are looking at going to America. There are what's it's called the community colleges that offer you 2-year degree. The enrollment is open, so if you have the qualification, you can always apply. It's less expensive and you can transfer to 4-year college after the 2-year program. Then the college or university system, usually I think in Africa, we are familiar with using university as anything outside of your high school program, and it's not diploma or a 2-year program. So we are used to using university, but they use college or university to refer to 4-year programs generally in private or public universities. They are more competitive. Universities is usually used to refer to institutions that offer graduate programs. The liberal arts colleges are also smaller institutions that focus on undergraduate programs. National universities offer all the programs, bachelor's, master's, and PhDs. Then there are other programs that you may want to consider, certificate programs, extension programs, continuing education programs, as well as online schools. Of course, these are not going to be any serious degree programs, but they could be something that contributes to your career. So choosing universities, how do you decide where, what, or how? I think I've mentioned something about this previously. Your life goals and your plans are very important as far as this goes. What do you, where do you see yourself? Where do you want to be? What are you planning to become? I think those are things that should drive this decision making. Your budget, that's your financial capability, is very important. Your previous academic achievement is also important because colleges will judge you on whether you should be given an offer based on your previous academic achievement. So if you are not going to qualify to go to a particular institution, there is no point trying to apply to that place. So you can use your previous achievement to decide on what's best for you, where your chances are higher. Then there are also specific institution requirements that determine whether you will be able to get an offer or not. College reputation is very important to some people. A lot of times I do, especially parents, I do hear parents asking me, okay, this institution, what is the QS ranking? Yeah, QS ranking is fantastic. It's a good idea to check, but a lot of times, I think we need to think far beyond those kind of rankings, because there is a lot to where you should be studying and what your future looks like than QS rankings. So then I would still talk a little bit more about that later on in the next few slides. Speed of decision by an institution can also be a factor for you to consider. Some of them, they answer very quickly. Your admission pulls through in few weeks, while some of them take forever. So if you are in a hurry, you may want to consider a university that that the speed of decision is very fast. And then should you consider an elite or a non-elite college to study? That's something that is very important for some people. They want to go to Harvard, they want to go to Stanford, MIT, and those big names are the things that matters to them. But should they matter to you? Maybe, maybe not. I would like to present you with a few statistics that can help you also to make a decision on that in the next slide, because statistics don't lie. But then before I leave this slide, I would say one thing that is very important is seek counsel before you make your decision. Plan ahead, be realistic in whatever decision you are making, because there is more to your life than your academics. So talking about statistics, I would like to start with this. Ask yourself, is your investment in an expensive college degree going to be worth it? Return on investment is calculated based on your life outcome, the increase in your lifetime earnings minus the cost of your college. It was calculated for nearly about 30,000 bachelor's degree, and this is the figure that they came up with. The median bachelor's degree has net ROI of $306,000. So at the end of the day, considering your investment in your college and what your life outcome looks like, will it be worth it if you invest a fortune in college? Now, so let's look at what we have here. Looking at the ROI of several universities, these are the top 25 institutions with the best ROI. And when you look at them, you look at the total 4-year cost of their study and their 20-year ROI in the next column. Their average salary is also factored into that calculation. You discover that many of these institutions even have zero total 4-year cost. As you can see here, United States military is number 4 on the list. So apart from MIT that you see here, which is also top highly ranked on the QS ranking, I'm going to go to that in a moment. You discover that many of these universities are not even known when it comes to QS ranking. They are not at the top. So I made a summary here for you. On the left, you have the global top 10 colleges by QS ranking, and on the right, global top 10 colleges by ROI. Apart from MIT and California Institute of Technology, which is number 6 on QS ranking, and ended up at number 10 in ROI, you discover that most of those colleges and universities in number 2 to 9 are not, many of them, I checked all of them out by QS ranking, they are not even ranked. So at the end of the day, I think ROI could be a better statistic for you, a better metric for you to consider if you are thinking about college. So, and then this is another statistics that is very depressing. Top 25 US schools with the most depressed student bodies. But these are places that people want to go to study also. So it depends on what you are thinking and how you are thinking about it. To decide on where you want to study. Dan Rocato is from Credible. He was the one who made this statement, and he said families needs to start thinking more like consumers when it comes to selecting colleges. It's an investment. Is it worth it? You need to decide. You need to think about that very well before making a decision. So in summary, top schools are great, but not a necessity for life outcome or success. Many graduates of smaller schools are finding values in life. It's about you first before the college you attend. So what you're majoring in matters more than where you attend school. You don't have to get into an elite college to be successful. That is the truth. There are so many successful people who didn't even go to college. So it's if you have the opportunity, of course, if you have the privilege of going to Harvard or MIT or any one of those big names, by all means do. But if you don't struggle for it. Don't even try to put yourself down or be sad about it because it's not what makes your life. You can see some research findings there on the right. Students who applied and got in, attend, and didn't attend did well as those who attended. So that's, I think, for food for thought for you. Entry requirements, they vary depending on state, depending on individual institutions. So there's no way of presenting you with specific requirements for all institutions. You will need to research on which one you want to go and what your personal situation is for you to be able to decide what will be the requirements that you have to provide. Okay. Okay, let me go on to this. When you are making your application, this is a very important thing that you need to attend to. This is from HSBC. It says college admission officers are looking for students who show the curiosity and interest in some academic areas and some non-academic extracurriculars. So it's not enough to just get good grades and good test scores. You need to show passion. You need to have some achievements that you can showcase. That is what will make a college be interested in you and not just your results. So how to stand out in admission, because that's what you want to do when you make your application. You are competing with people from everywhere in the world for very few spots in a particular institution. You want to stand out. You want to be the one that the admission officers will say, yes, this is the person we want. So you need to show excellence, best in something. You need to show original projects that shows maybe your creativity, your critical thinking, your entrepreneurial mindset. Those are things that you need to work on. You need to demonstrate maturity. Maybe you need to make headlines. Have you done something fantastic in your country that you have press coverage or some loud activities that are available online? Those are things that could help you to stand out. You can also write an awesome essay, because this is also part of your application package. You can demonstrate leadership. I think among all the items, the metrics, this is one of the most important for most institutions, demonstration of leadership. So how do you do that? We'll talk about that later on. And then demonstrating resilience or incredible grit, maybe in your essay or in your personal statement, you describe how you have survived some very serious adversity, how you overturned a bad situation, or, for example, you self-studied for a very important exam, you dealt with discrimination, you managed multiple challenges. These are all things that can come in for you. Now, rejection factors, yes, poor level funding. This is not something you can do anything about. If the institution doesn't have funding, of course, the number of international students they can take will be limited. Then, so if there are limited space, they will usually reserve that for students who demonstrate financial capability. So if you don't, that may be a negative one for you. Test scores as the only strength demonstrated by the applicant is not going to earn you a place in good institutions. Or if you fail to recognize or understand how you can demonstrate individualism in your essay or in your SOP. If you fail to communicate your content in ways that your evaluators can understand. For example, I think many people on the call are from Africa, and sometimes the issue there is whether what you claim is a distinction in your country, does it translate to a distinction in America? Will the evaluator be able to see that connection? Are you communicating your maybe projects or your results, your activities in ways that they can understand and relate with in this strange environment who don't understand how things go in your own country? Sometimes your essay can come with some big word vocabularies that communicates nothing. Or if you plagiarized your essay or your SOP, there is no authenticity, that will end your rejection. Okay, so we move on to documentations for admission. This is for all applicants. You see them on the left. All applicants have to provide that. I think your most important document is your international passport, because I've come across cases, so many cases where students will come to us, so I want to study in so country. Okay, so let's start. Where is your international passport? Sorry, I don't have. If you don't have an international passport, don't even start. You can't start anything. That's your single most important document. So you need your resume or CV, mark sheets and pass certificates for your test, letters of recommendation, English test score. I'm going to talk about each one of these later on. For master's student, you need additional documents as listed there, and for undergraduate student, you need those ones as well. Okay. So these documents, how important are they, and the factors that they represent, or the highlights? How important are they to the success of your college application? I came across this research on how college attribute different levels of importance to admission decision factors. This can help you because, as you can see there, the most important metric seems to be grades in all courses, grades in college prep courses, admission test scores, and strength of your CV, while the least appear to be your SAT2 scores and state graduation exam scores. So then I try to summarize this, and then you have this coming out of it. So this, I think, might be easier to relate with. The metrics in the data is not too much. So you know what to work on. This is what you have on the right there, the percentage of universities sampled that think these metrics on the left are extremely important for your admission. So this is from Merck Review, so you can take a look at that. These are the top 10 factors considered by US colleges. Now, let me say something about these, some of these metrics, especially the second and the third one, that's the AP, IB class grades and the SAT and ACT scores. As much as possible, because they are not compulsory requirements in many cases. You can still get your offer, you can still find a place without them. The only thing that we have seen, based on our experience with dealing with students from different places, is the fact that you stand better chances of scholarship and low tuition when you have these test scores. So even though they are not compulsory, I will tell you, if you can get them, get them. If you can access them, access them, because your offer will be far, far better. We have a case recently where a student wanted to study a particular course in one Canadian university, and we were able to find a university that was going to take, the tuition was about $5,000. That was about the lowest we have seen. They even had courses that are $3,000. But you need to have all of these things. It's not compulsory, but your options are limited when you don't have them. That's the whole idea. So if you can get them, it's the best. So this is just a summary of what you need to focus on as you prepare to get the offer. So on the documents, PBB, please, how many minutes more do I have? Hello?
So you have another 10 minutes.
Okay. So your CV is very important. This is the basic format of things that you should include on your CV. Objective, you should have a section for that, your educational qualification, your work experience or internship, include your milestone scores, your aggregates per year, and then your 10th, 12th, and final aggregates. Make sure you showcase them in your CV. Projects that you have undertaken, maybe if you're a master's student during your undergraduate program or during your internship, or if you had held a full-time job, you should include that, then your co-curricular or extracurricular activities. So how do you build an awesome CV? These are suggestions that we have for you. Be detailed. It's better to provide too much information than too little. Capture activities that illustrate your passion, that demonstrate leadership, decision-making, and all these good skills that colleges are looking for. Show your involvement, show how good you are, show that you are awesome. That's what the admission officer is looking for. So you can check for examples online, but if you are working with arrows, we also do this. We help you with this, we guide you on how to come up with all of this. I need you to know that some activities will not add value to your CV or to your application, so no need to stress yourself over them. They are the ones in the slightly pink box on the right, so you can take a look at those. Letters of recommendation are very important. You'll get them from your professors if you are maybe applying for a master's program, or your teacher, former school, former proprietor or proprietress. If you are working, you may need from your managers. They should describe your skills, your achievements, your academic or professional experience. Usually, the colleges will require you to provide 3 or sometimes 2. And sometimes even when they ask for 3, they can overlook it if you're able to get 2, and maybe 1 failed to deliver. Some colleges will accept online, while some will insist on hard copies that are sealed and sent with signature on the seal. So you need to know what your institution requires. And finally, please be careful who is recommending you. Be careful whose name is listed as your recommender, because that will make or mar your application. We have an experience right now that is still ongoing. We are still on it as of today, before I came for this program, of someone who she listed some 3 persons. No, they asked for 2. She listed 2 people on her application for recommendation letter. And when it was time to write recommendation, one of them said, "Sorry, I don't know you that well. I can't write recommendation letter for you. You should look for someone that knows you well." And seriously, the application is hanging now because nothing could be done. The second person she thought was going to write was saying, "Okay, I will write." And by this week, the person stopped picking her calls. So please build relationships before you leave your institution. Because when you need them to write something for you, that should not be the time for you to go back to them and be asking for letters. They should know you. You should also keep in touch. Don't break off relationships, and then when you have need, you start going back. No, you should maintain good relationships in your previous workplace, with your previous institutions or supervisors or lecturers, so that when you need them, they will always be there for you. I was talking to someone again today. I said, even for me, I still make sure that I follow my former teachers online on their social media. I greet them. I say Happy New Year. I send them greetings if they are making progress. Those are important things to keep in touch. Maintain relationship. Don't start running to people when you need them, because at that time, they will not be able to say something in your favor. So these are important tests that you may need to, like I've mentioned, they are not compulsory. Many of them are optional, but my advice is take them because they enhance your opportunities. The last one there is the English test. It's also sometimes optional, especially if you come from a country where English is the medium of instruction. But even then, take them because it's important. And then these postgraduates. The previous one, this one is for undergraduates, and this is for postgraduate students. So depending on what course you want to study, you choose which one. So you don't have to write, or you just write the one that is relevant for the program that you want to study. Both cases need an English test. So on the English test, candidates from English-speaking countries will not be exempted if your English score history is 4. So you should have that in mind. If you are from a non-English-speaking country, you'll be required to provide IELTS band 5.5. That will give you a conditional offer. But if you get up to 6.5, you can get a full offer. Then some institutions also accept the Duolingo test or TOEFL. And then some useful info here is that you can take a computer-based test or a paper-based test for your IELTS. If you take the computer-based test, you'll get your result in 5 days. If you take the paper-based test, you get your result in about 13 days. And your test results are valid for 2 years. After 2 years, if you don't use them, you're going to have to take another one again. And the score sheet is accepted only through the organization that you took the test with. You cannot send it directly to your institution. So you need to factor all these timelines in when you are making your application, because it's going to add time to what you need, and it can help you to prepare before you start making your application. Your statement of purpose, I think, is one very important document in your college application package as well. It's your opportunity to market yourself while you are not there. So you need to have that at the back of your mind. The admission officer is not saying you, cannot assess you based on any other thing other than what you have written in this document. So you should plan ahead to provide answers to this important question: who you are, what you want to study, what you've done so far in your field of choice. So you need to present a story that connects. Your story should connect. So this is a sample format, and this is not a template. This is just a sample format that you can use to create your own statement of purpose. You should be creative when it comes to doing this, because your experience is different from the experience of another person. So, but this can provide you with a guide that can help you to craft something that is acceptable. Confirmation of application is also expected as part of your package. So you can use the confirmation page maybe after you pay, or the confirmation email that you receive after you have sent in your application. And then your letters of experience from your work or internship organization, copies of your award certificates. If you have claimed to be an awardee of some sort, you need to provide certificates to support that. Proof of participation in competitions or volunteer work, your conference papers, journal publications, if you're a postgraduate student. These are all very important. Your admission essay. So on this, sometimes some institution will ask you for a statement of purpose. Sometimes some will ask you for admission essay. Sometimes you have to provide both. So depends on the institution that you will be attending. So a great essay should be impressive, should showcase you. It's not that you are bragging, but you need to brag. That's the whole idea. You need to tell the university that you are awesome, that you are excellent, and that in fact they will be missing out if they are not giving you the offer. That's the kind of thing you want to present. So you want to tell a story that shows that you value excellence, but you have to remember also that every point you are making contributes a judgment for the admission officer to make a conclusion about you. So you should be mindful of what you're presenting. Highlight qualities that show you that you are awesome. It shows how you think, that shows your personality, your values, your motivation, why you do the things that you do. Sometimes some of these essay topics are random topics that you'll be given. Sometimes it's about you, your interest in the field that you want to study. So sometimes you may have to write more than one essay. So it depends on the university. And these are just factors that you can consider in building a good essay. Because of time, I'm going to have to go faster. Proof of fund is another important document, very, very important document. In some universities, you have to provide them at the point of application. So if you are studying in such countries, that means you have to make sure that you provide this ready by the time you're applying. But there are so many other colleges too that don't require this at the point of application. The difference is that when it is required at the point of application, your application process is faster because every document is available for making a decision about your application. Apart from few universities that require payments of $2,000 to $3,000 to get the Form I-20, US universities do not usually require tuition deposit prior to applying for visa, which is good news because most other countries require this. So by way of helping you to make a decision on that, this is our own proof of fund calculator at Arrows. Usually they will tell you 1 year tuition plus 1 year living expense. For us, we tell you to add 30% to it so that because you are competing. So you want to make sure that you are not just trying to meet the requirement, but you want to surpass it. So if your 1 year tuition is like 15K, and then your 1 year living expenses is like 12,000, that's a total of 27,000. 30% of that is 8,100. If you add it together, you end up with 35,100. That means you are going to have to show that this amount of money has been in your account for between 4 to 6 months. So you should plan for that. If you don't have that ready, then you shouldn't be thinking of going to university in 3 months or 5 months. So funding, I know this is always the topic, but today I'm not talking about scholarships because it's all based on so many factors that we cannot exhaust today. But there are a lot of funding, especially entry and merit scholarships that you can take advantage of. But there are so many scholarships that you can also access after you are registered as a student. So this is the process flow for us. Get in touch, complete the application form, we do credential evaluation for you, it's free. You pay your service charge and it covers your application fee as well. Then you upload your documents are reviewed, you get the offer, you get the Form I-20 for your visa, and then you get your visa and make your tuition deposit, and then you're on your way. It's as simple as that. Planning ahead, I'll say prepare mentally, physically, and financially, work on yourself, build a good CV. Building a good CV is not something you start to do when you are ready to make your application. It's something that you start years before you are ready to go. So you need to have that at the back of your mind. Get involved in useful extracurricular activities, get useful, relevant work experience if you can, and then understand the local setting. Start early. That's a very important one. Start very, very early. If you are in high school, it's a good time for you to start before you even go near your final year of high school. Take, for example, you want to demonstrate leadership. You cannot start demonstrating leadership when you're already out of school. It's something that you should have been demonstrating prior to that. And here I want to say something to any young person that is on the call. Sometimes when people come and they ask you, will you take on this responsibility? Will you lead us? And you say, no, I don't want to. You are denying yourself this kind of opportunities because later on, when you will need such to refer to, there will be nothing to refer to. So volunteer to lead. If truly you think that you have what it takes, why not? The person that is going to take it is no better than you. So use it. For research scholars, excellent research proposal is a must. You should focus on institution-related projects or national, international funds related projects. Get information, network, build a good CV, digital and non-digital. I always say that. Research your professor. If you're going to be working under someone, you should know what they are doing. You should read their papers. You should go on Google Scholar and find them and see what they are working on. Go on ResearchGate and see what they are working on. Those are important places. Go to LinkedIn, try to send them maybe connection requests and see what they are about. If you don't know anything about someone and you are writing them to supervise you, it wouldn't make much sense. You won't appear like a serious person. So show seriousness working with your supervisor. Generally, I think, so let me summarize here. Start planning early. Better to have too much time than to have too little time. Think ahead, align your goals with your plan so that you can tell a coherent story. So that your life story can show that you have been passionate about this one thing all through. So that when you are building an SOP or you're writing an essay, you will be able to build a nice story. Put practicality above desirability, like I said at the beginning. Research your course or program of interest. Start building your CV early. Show yourself as a well-rounded student, but one with a clear passion. Prepare yourself emotionally and financially, and do your homework. So finally, this is the offer we are presenting to you today. I think, like I said, it's the biggest one that we've offered so far. We are offering everyone on the call that is interested in applying to any university in the US, the UK, Canada, or Australia. We are offering you free consultation under the condition that you see in the pink box on the right. But before I leave that one, application fees charged by the university cannot be waived by us. We are not the university. So universities have their application fee, but if you find a university that is not charging application fee, by all means, you can take advantage of that. So that's the only thing you need to pay to the university. But whatever you need to pay to us, we are waiving it 100%. But that is only for taught programs. For those who are going for research programs, we offer you 20% off your consultation charges. And these offers are only for those on the call today. So on the terms and conditions, let me explain a little before I leave. Your application has to be initiated before 1st of March. And your application fees to your university, whichever university you have chosen, must be paid at the beginning of the processing. So we don't want to waste the time of our staff who will be helping you when you are not ready to do anything. So you need to show that you are ready to make your application by paying your application fee. Now, the question some people will ask here is, if I pay an application fee for University ABC, and at the end of the day, I find out that they cannot give me an offer, or I prefer another university, then what happens? What happens is that you are not going to lose your payment, because by virtue of our relationship with the universities, we can withdraw your payment and use it for you to pay to another university. The only thing is that you won't be able to take it out of the system, but you can use it to pay for another university that you'd be interested in. So if there is any extra fee on your application fee to another university, then you can top up that. What I mean is, you have applied to University A, the fee to the university is $10, and then you are no more interested in that university. You want to go to University B, then the fee is $15. Then you just top up $5 on what you have paid for and make your application to that new university. So this offer does not cover master's and PhD by research. If you need more information, this is our links, Facebook and YouTube. You can check. There are a lot of presentations from several study abroad webinars that we've run before. You can also, many of them also have detailed information directly from universities that we have posted on the programs. Guidance on English program, and all other programs you can also get through the videos there. Information on scholarships and funding on research studies and grants. And that's at the bottom in the orange section, you can see our email address and our WhatsApp number. You can chat up someone there anytime. There will always be somebody there to attend to you. And I think I'm going to stop there. And I say a toast to your dreams. I hope this year you can make it happen by going abroad. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Is anyone else hearing an echo? Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Bosede, for that elaborate presentation. Thank you. It was very informative, and I'm definitely looking forward to the people who are going to take advantage of this session, to be able to have access, to the discounts that have been given. It's 100% waiver on the service fee. That is massive. Thank you, Arrows Transaction and OT Consulting, for that. So the key words I got from that presentation is that you have to be outstanding in your studies before applying for the university, and outstanding is not enough to give you access or to give you admission into a university in America. So you have to have extracurricular activities attached to being outstanding. So you also need to be able to make a decision, because studying abroad is a life-changing experience. So you need to be very, very mindful of what exactly you're going into or getting yourself into, especially with your course of study. And I'm going to touch on that point when we get to the Q&A session, especially with Mr. Roland Fomundam, because he has a bit of a unique experience, like I mentioned earlier, on his study experience in America. So one of the other key words I got was you should be able to ascertain the return on investment that you're making to study. So I think that was very, very important. And you also have to be able to build relationships with who you want to supervise you. I mean, we cannot overemphasize how important that is, because people will just come to you only when they need your services, and that's not very good. It doesn't tell well of you. You also need to have a story that connects. I remember when I was applying for studies, I was asked a story, but I wasn't very coordinated because I didn't have somebody to guide me through the process. I didn't know exactly how impactful having a story is on your visa, on obtaining a visa. And you have to be confident in your story and also show that you are outstanding, and you need to start early. So that's for high school students in high school. You need to start early enough in the preparation so that before you complete your studies, you're ready to get into university in America. So thank you so much, Dr. Bosede, for that. That was very informative. I have a couple of questions, and I'm going to keep that for the Q&A session at the end. But right now, we are going to be talking to the other speakers. And I'm going to invite Steven. Hello, Steven.
Hello. Yeah.
How are you today?
I'm doing very good, thank you. Yeah.
Very well. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you mentioned earlier it is very early because you're in California at the moment, and that's where you're studying. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Foryoung. I'm an engineering student, so electrical engineering and computer science at the University of California in Berkeley. So I'm a senior student as well. So I'm in my final year of studies. I'm also doing some research. Yeah, and I'm also doing some work at the university as well. So that's a little bit about me. I come from Cameroon as well. I left Cameroon in 2018, if I remember well. So yeah, that's it for me.
So can you tell me, when did you start preparing yourself to get to the United States?
Yeah, I actually had that in mind a lot even when I was in high school. I was thinking about like the possibilities of going to study in the United States. So, my situation is a little bit different in the sense that when I was in opposites, like that's when the whole kind of like strike thing started in the Northwest. So I kind of was out of school for the most part, but I started working towards my application in high school, and then I had a year where I attended the University of Boya, and then after that I came to the US. So maybe it took about a year and a half for me in total from the time I started working, maybe 2 years actually, a year and a half, 2 years from the time I started working towards it. Because by working towards it, I mean like taking some exams as well, like Dr. Edwards just shared, and yeah, so things like that.
Okay, perfect. So I know, excuse me. So I want to know, what criteria did you use in selecting the university that you're currently at? And how many universities did you have to apply for before getting and how many applications were successful? Just give us perspective on that.
Okay. Yeah, so I didn't get into this university from Cameroon. So what I did was I went to a community college. I think the last speaker spoke a little bit about that as well. So there's different paths to go to like a 4-year university. So for me, I had a brother here who advised me to go, to go through that path, because when I was leaving high school, I was a very good student, but unfortunately at that time, because of the way things went on, I didn't get as high par of a result as I wanted. So I did go to community college first, and then I did 2 years there. I got a 4.0 GPA, everything was perfect, and then I applied to like a broad range of universities while I was here. So there's many factors that influenced my coming to this current university right now. So the first thing is in the same state. It's in the same state that I started studying in community college. So it's in California here. It's probably the best engineering student, the best engineering university that that one of the best in California and in the US. So that's at least that's one of the reasons why I applied to it in the first place.
Yes.
But yeah, so some of the factors, it's a public university. I mean, there's differences between public and private universities, right? So sometimes depending on the cost, depending on on the program as well, you want to weigh both of them and see which one is going to give you a better offer. But I applied to as many as possible. And then at the end, I kind of made my decision to come to this one.
Okay, perfect. So one of the things that Dr. Bosedi highlighted earlier is having a story. So how was your story able to influence, you obtaining a visa?
Yeah, so for me, my story was really, I would say, it was first of all one of desire and passion, because I kind of had a big desire to study in the United States, and not just to study in the United States, but to have a great education, to pretty much be successful. And the background from that was a little bit relating in terms of what was going on in the country at that time, and what is probably still going on right now. But the fact that I dropped out, from school because the school was closed and things like that, and then I took exams like SAT and stuff like that. So I was actually studying for those exams, and in the midst of all of that, I could still manage to keep my composure. I did some exams to go to like some competitive universities in Cameroon, but I didn't make it. But it didn't discourage me. I still kept moving in the direction I wanted. So some of those things added to my story. Some of those things added to my story. Some of the leadership roles that I took in secondary school as well, things like that. Most of those things added to my story.
Okay, that's interesting. So I know that with planning or getting yourself to move abroad comes with challenges. And also, even while you're there in America, you definitely have or are experiencing certain challenges. So what are the kind of challenges that an international student would experience studying abroad?
The first challenge is the cost, of course. The international student cost is definitely higher than the regular students cost in some universities, in most of them. I mean, there's universities that are good for that, and there's also different ways that you can do to get sometimes in-state if you understand the system very well, and it really depends on where you are. But sometimes, well, some of the challenges are being away from family as well for a very extended period of time. So I personally have not seen my parents in more than 3 years, for example. That's a huge challenge that people should also consider as well when moving. Like, are you able to live with that? So I moved to Los Angeles, for example, when I just came in. And now I'm in a whole different city. When I was in Los Angeles, I had my siblings there. And in this city, I have like absolutely no one here. I know nobody here. So those kind of things can come into play into a person's mind as well. So there are many things to consider as well. Sometimes the culture is really different. So another thing is the culture is really different. So I wouldn't say blending in the culture, but understanding the culture and understanding how to behave and how to relate with people might be different when, as compared to another place, for example. So those are some of the challenges that people face here, I think.
Yeah, and you mentioned something about the mental preparation. So can you just highlight on that? Because I think that if you have to relocate from your country to foreign land, fortunately for you, you had siblings when you went to Los Angeles. So can you just throw more light on what kind of mental preparation a student would need to do to be able to survive in that country?
Well, there's many things. I mean, for me, it was a little bit easier because I went to boarding school already, so you know how in boarding school you start getting exposed to not being around your parents for too long. But I think in terms of mental preparation, you really just have to be, be prepared. You really just have to put it in your mind, like I'm going somewhere new. Yeah, I might have challenges, but I'm ready to take it on. And
Right.
by God's grace, I'll be able to go through it. So yeah. So I mean, it's different. There's different ways of going about it, in the sense that when sometimes like your ability to connect with people might help you as well. It might give you other opportunities where you might make good friends, or you might meet good people as well. So it's all about being open as well, to meet people, to experience new things, and hopefully you find it as well.
Yeah, so you also have talked about the cultural differences. And like I mentioned initially when we started, how much studying abroad can change you. So how you've been there for a couple of years, how has being in this new culture and country changed you for the better or for the worse? Like, how has it changed or impacted you?
Yeah, the culture is really different. It's very, very different. There's many good aspects about the culture, that in my opinion, and there's many aspects about the culture that are not so good, like every other place, right? So knowing which ones are good and which ones are not good comes up to you. For me, one thing that really stood well. One thing that gave me a good ground was, for example, my faith, right? I kept holding on that. So when I came across things that are different, like people with different values and different things like maybe beliefs or way of life, I knew at the back of my mind what I should do. But in terms of like different aspects of the culture, like communication, for example, the way we communicate in Cameroon is different, for example, from the way people communicate here. So it definitely took me a while to learn, sometimes, how, like, what people mean exactly when they say this, or what people mean when they say that, because it,
Yeah.
it, it might sound like they're saying these words, but what they actually mean is different from what we've been exposed to. So I would say it takes time, but you just have, for me, for example, I had to be open to try to understand what was going on. And also when I was in community college, I was involved in a lot of things. So like so many different things. I played soccer for the school. I was in the student organization. I was doing many different things. I was an academic instructor as well. So I was exposed to like many things that could help me understand the culture much better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Making yourself available to be able to experience and learn fast, it's something that is going to set you ahead of the game. So one question that I really want to focus on is funding. Universities in America are pretty expensive, and Dr. Bosede also highlighted that there are scholarship opportunities. So how have you, as an international student, been able to navigate that? Because it's pretty expensive. Are you able to work and study? Or if not, how are you able to manage the whole financial aspect of education?
Yeah, so first thing, like I mentioned earlier, I went to a community college, and community colleges are much, well, less expensive than four-year university. So that's one thing you might want to consider as well if you're not so sure about how much income you have. So when I was in community college, the tuition was not as high. It was not pretty high. So I could easily manage that. I had some support from my parents as well, but I definitely had to work. So immediately when I got there, I mean, I didn't know exactly how to navigate the system in my first semester, for example. But from my second semester, I started working on campus. So I started working on campus in my community college a couple of hours. Um, Actually, many hours. So international students tend to work sometimes many hours compared to other students who just
Yeah.
come and study, without actually having to work. And that could be good and that could be bad. I mean, in my case, I used it as a plus for when I was applying to universities, right? Like for someone to be able to work 20 hours a week and take maybe 5, 6 classes, 7 classes a semester, and still be able to, get the results that he got. And that was also part of the story that I used.
Yeah.
But I would say definitely, at the end of that, well, definitely when you get into the system, you would probably know some of the things that you can do to get income. You might have to do one job, you might have to do two jobs, and you might
Yeah.
even have to do three jobs. Some people
Yeah.
work like some people work in crazy ways here. Literally, I know people who work
Yeah.
like 20-hour shifts sometimes. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that was for the community college aspect of it. After community college, I had to move to the current university where I am in right now. And fortunately for me, I was able to get myself to pay in-state tuition. So the tuition that regular residents of the state pay. So
Yeah.
it's still about the same amount I was paying in community college. But then here I have a job in the university, in the university I currently attend. So I work with one of the, I work with the engineering student services. So that's one of the ways I do to pay for tuition. And one thing about my school is if you're also a teaching assistant, there's a tuition remission policy. So
Okay.
they kind of like give you back your tuition if you become a TA or something like that. So they give you back your tuition, or they waive your tuition for depending on the amount of hours that you work for. So there's a different ways that you can use to navigate that. I personally, like last year, for example, I did research and I got a stipend for doing research as an undergraduate student. So there's many ways, but I guess you just have to be really proactive to go find out those those avenues that you can use to get financial support for yourself.
Yeah, wow. I'm going to leave it there, but I'm going to take away that last sentence. You have to be proactive to go find out those avenues where you can be able to make money to cover for your tuition or academics. So thank you, Steven. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. I'm going to call Mr. Roland Fomundam. Roland, are you there?
Yes, I'm right here.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to follow through on some questions I have been asking Steven, so you can share with us from your experience. And I'm also going to highlight that Roland has lived in America, but he's currently in Cameroon. So he finished his studies and then relocated to Cameroon. But Roland, I would like you to tell that story. The first thing is that America is a system, and you talk very much about this system you're very vocal about it on your posts on social media and everywhere with anyone you can talk about it with. So can you help us first, tell us about yourself, and then you tell us about this American system that you so badly want people to be able to understand and prepare for?
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. And I send my salutations to all other panelists and speakers. Thank you, Kimberly, for organizing this. I think this platform and this media, it's very important because the aspect of going to America has been misunderstood and been misconstrued in so many ways. So the realities of most people are not being attained. I bet you that at least a good over 50% of Cameroonians that are living in America today are not actually satisfied with the way they're doing it, or with the way they are realizing the realities, or are not making huge gains of the opportunities that they have around them. And I think it is very important for us to start creating platforms like this where we are able to speak not just the fantasies of the US, but the realities of it all. And I believe that when we can learn a lot about America, then we can learn also a lot about Africa. Because the tendency is that when most of us leave Cameroon or Africa as a whole, we tend to look at it as the black and the dark continent, or the place that is full of evil and poverty, and then want to give all the praises to America. Whereas, they are just two sides of the same coin. There are same challenges and there are same opportunities in every place that you are in. Yes, I know I am very vocal, especially when it comes to being in America as an immigrant. But sometimes people misunderstand my voice. Sometimes many a times, or all the times, I don't mean to insult what America has had to offer, because yes, I'm a beneficiary of the system. But I rather want to shed more light onto the realities of it, because until you can see the realities of America, then you can also understand the realities of a place like Cameroon. And which is why, for me, as an example, I left the United States, I mean, the day after I graduated from school. Not living because I had anything to come do here. Honestly, I had nothing. There was nothing planned for me. It wasn't as if I had a job or anything, nothing. I had nobody in any part of the system that I thought would hold my hand to get me there. But um, just like Steve, it's that leap of faith, where you believe that, hey, if you jump in that pool, you're going to swim, by any means. Others have done it, you also can do it. I think the same challenges and opportunities we have in the US, we have similar or even lesser here in Cameroon. And it really just depends in which ocean or which river or stream you want to swim in. It's totally on you. So yes, my experiences are very much standard and very practical, because I left from Cameroon at a very tender age. And I got there, unlike most people who have somebody where they get to meet, and, that person shows them life and shows them the ways of the US. I didn't have that opportunity, and I think I made a lot of mistakes. But one thing that kept me going was my focus on school, and that's what I always tell anybody. The first thing you want to do when you get to America, or the main objective you want to have when going to America, is to further your education, because the American education system is a branded education system. It's not so much about what what you learn; it's where you learn and how you do learn, and the network with which you learn with. It's very, very important. The schools you go to matter the most. Many of us, when we leave Cameroon, we have that tendency where, oh, you just want to go to any school because you want to have an American degree. But believe me, there are levels to this stuff. Harvard University and another university in Boston, Massachusetts, they might have the same curriculum, but the fact that it's Harvard can open you many more doors. Many people would tend to think that, for you to get into Harvard, you need to score some, 4.0 GPAs and all of that. But you go to the same Harvard, you still have students who fail. You still have students with a 2.0 GPA. So everyone has a chance. I remember being on campus, you have these Chinese students who come, attend Harvard, and they barely speak English. And you ask yourself that you come from an English-speaking country, how come you don't have that opportunity to get into a school like this? But you have these folks who can barely even understand what you're saying, and they're able to make it. So I think the first thing I want to just shed light is the fact that, yes, America, and I always say this, America is not a country, America is a system. And what do I mean by that? It's, sometimes people take this literally, but it's something which is very important to understand. When I say America is a system, I mean it's a place where everything is already standardized. There is an in and out to everything. You coming in from Cameroon with X family background, with Y amount, everything, there is already a path for you to follow. Usually it's hard for you to differentiate that path. If you come to America and you start with school, yes, there is a way, we can already know where you would end at. If you start at a community college, we know already where you end at. If you start as a nurse, everything already has a start and an end. Unlike in Cameroon, where yes, you can study in Cameroon as a medical doctor and you end up working in a shop, as a salesperson. There are good sides and bad sides to it all. What I always tend to tell people to take advantage of is the fact that there is not much you can change in America, but there's a lot more you can change here in Cameroon. That's why I say American system, because there are things that cannot change. And you have to be able to accept whatever situation you're in. If you're going to America to join the military, join the military. Don't join the military and say, no, I want to just be part-time because I want to do this. I want to end up going to school. I want to do this. You can't eat your cake and have it. And most people tend not to have that full understanding of what the system really has to offer. If you get there and you decide that you want to study nursing, yes, you will study nursing, and there is a place where you would have to end up at. If you decide you want to go for pilot or whatever you really want to do, like I said, it's a system. You can already know where you're getting in and where you're coming out of. The challenge is that most people, they go in a particular way, and then they expect different results at the end. You really cannot, because you find people who have been in America for 40 years. Every year they're telling you, oh, I'm going to go back to Cameroon to start an investment. I'm going to go back here to do this. You know, there are things that you can do when you're there for 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, and there are things that you really cannot do. I am more of that voice that seeks to always call reality, because I believe that that is what most of us, once we get to America, we lose sight of the reality of it. And yes, it's sad that you'll find somebody in America who wants to tell you that they know everything about Cameroon when they've barely visited, the country in the last 10 years. Yes, and they always want to make a case of where they are as though, they have everything going on there. I think for me, I like to share a story of really how you can live in America and how you can live out of America. Because I had a choice to either stay there or I had a choice to leave. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I'm right to say this, but I'm better off in Cameroon than I would have been in America. Not as though
Roland,
yeah.
So I just want to ask you a follow-up question on what you just said. How is it possible for young students who are aspiring to go to America be able to position themselves, to be better off, or not to be consumed by the system? Because you just mentioned that you're better off in Cameroon than you were in America. However, America, like you mentioned earlier, gave you an education and has broadened your perspective on things, to be able to think in a certain way, to be able to contribute to society. So my first question is, what can somebody, a young person, do to be able to position themselves, not to be consumed by the system?
Yes, the first thing I advise anybody going to America, or when I was there, once you get there, the first thing you want to do is to go to school. School is the greatest asset that America can offer to anybody. And because the American education system has been branded and sits at the very top, on the value ladder in any place. So if you leave America with an American education system, of course you are recognized everywhere. That's why you would realize that in America, most of our Nobel Peace Prize winners, they're naturalized Americans. I mean, if you always look through that list, America, you live, from Europe with any education background, you get to America, you want to get that one degree from any school to just be able to broaden or brand, your educational achievements as though you did school there. So the first thing I tell anybody is, go to school. It doesn't matter what the cost is. And it's always very important. Most of us, when we leave from here, we get there, there's family pressures, there is this, and then you decide, okay, you know what, maybe I just start working. If you get to America today and the first thing you do is to start working, that's one of the mistakes that you're already making. And please interrupt me at any point, because I say some things that are very sensitive, and I like to really explain myself further, because sometimes I get very much misunderstood. First thing, get to America, go to school. It's important. Get an education. Get an American education. It doesn't matter if you did study law here, whatever you do, the first thing is to go to school, because that school is going to define you in many ways. That school is what is going to open up the doors for you. Americans will not trust you unless you've had their own test of their own education system. It doesn't matter if you had the PhD in Russia, in Cameroon, anywhere. If you come to America and you don't get yourself in the school system, then that's already one step that you're already losing. The second aspect is that once you're in America, for your first year, and again, it depends how you came in, I should make that clear. If you are somebody who came in and, through a student visa, okay, you go to school. If you came in through maybe an asylum method, okay. But if you can get your papers and make sure you go to school, find that. By any means, try and find a way to get yourself in school. I say this forcefully because School gives you a brand which you cannot take away. I mean, just a little side story. I remember, I mean, our early days in America, you know, a time where you're caught driving too fast. All I had to tell the judge was that I was driving to school, you know. The moment, you know, they know that you're a student, you're a guy of color, but you're making sure that you're staying in school, staying out of trouble, that gets you past many things. I've had many favors granted upon me because, you know, I was in school. And of course, I tell people that once you are an African, don't go to the schools that are black led or black majority schools. I tell people that all the time. Find a school where you are the minority. It is always very important. All my schools, I did white universities or white colleges where I didn't mind being the one black student in class. I had the attention of the class, but you know what? There were many grants that I was opportune to. There were many grants that I received. I even remember one time receiving scholarships from literature from the College of Arts when I wasn't from the College of the Arts. I remember receiving, you know, scholarships in mathematics, which was not even my major, but that was simply because there was no other student of color to be able to take in that place. I even remember one of my schools, there was actually a scholarship that was done for me because I actually went to that office and asked them, hey, listen, there needs to be some sort of resources or advantages or assistance for students of color. You cannot tell me that a university like this doesn't have any packages for students of color or minority students. And they actually created something for me, you know. But imagine if you went to a black university, they have everything already there, and you're in competition with almost every other black student from anywhere, from Nigeria to South Africa to Kenya to everywhere that they come from, and your chances of actually making it there are very, very slim. That's something that you need to understand. My business, I started my business right at the university itself, and it was a business that meant, you know, taking Cameroon to America. It flourished a lot because, you know, I positioned my school to a point where I was able to bring students from the United States into Cameroon and back. And that was something that I could do because I was the only student there at the time. It was a program that was unique. There was no other person who was doing it. And yeah, I mean, a lot of things just came through. So the secret of it is find a white university. And I'm saying this to those who are listening to us. It is very, very important. And once you're in that university, make yourself known. Just talking like Steve said, get involved, get engaged. You know, I was a tutor for mathematics, for physics, for chemistry. I mean, your first year in college in the US, you're basically going through everything you did in Form 5 and opposite and opposite, you know. So you take advantage of that and you're a tutor. I mean, I remember at one point my school was actually paying my rent, you know, because I dedicated myself on campus. I started a student organization that was, you know, leading African studies or leading African experiences. And yeah, it just gave me an additional edge on campus. And, you know, little things like that really positioned you, you know, and by the time I was done with school, I had all the recommendations from all faculties, from the president, and it was easy for me to move on. And the other thing I'd like to make mention to people to understand is that, you see, and I might sound a little harsh on this, but the white man would pay you any amount of money if you don't have to live in their country to compete, you know, with their own children. And I say this very, very frankly. And it is the same thing like we have here. I mean, we are in Cameroon now. Imagine, we're in Cameroon and you think that 20 years from now, a Chinese will become the president of Cameroon. There is no person who wants to live that reality, even though we might not be living at that time, but thinking that our kids will be managed or led by some Chinese person doesn't really make sense. So think about that, the same thing in America. You know, the white America right now, looking at how, you know, the black minority is becoming the majority, they are getting concerned. They have to be concerned that, hey, tomorrow their kids might not have a voice, might not have a place. So you have to understand that the discrimination will never cease. Forget all the movements that you will see every now and then. The racism will never end. Nothing really will really change. I mean, it's been 60 years, Martin Luther King was shot, and still today, the same things are happening, no matter how much they show them on TV. And people need to understand it. You know, the fact that the propaganda is on TV every now and then is just to remind you that, you know, you are still there. And it just goes on to let other people make sure that, hey, this is America and this is the way of life here. There are things that cannot change. It bothers me when you have our fellow Cameroonians who live from here and then they go there and believe that, oh, they can suddenly change the American system. It is a system that was implanted 200 plus years ago, and it is not meant to change anytime soon. So it is important. When I talk about the American system broadened my view and vision, it was because I was able to see Cameroon 100 years from now. I look at America and I see, okay, 100 years from now, Cameroon will someday get here. So you can already tell where Cameroon would be in some years. And this is the same idea that I brought back to be able to start what we're doing now, which is in greenhouse farming. If you look at all other countries that have evolved in agriculture, there's been a technology. And if you look around, it's a common technology that they have all used. It's not tractors, it's not bulldozers. It's things as simple as smart agricultural techniques. We cannot skip that gap. Cameroon, we cannot skip that agricultural revolution. And that's where we're in right now. And we're getting it. So when you are in a place like America, you see where America is today, and you tell yourself that, oh, someday Cameroon will get here. That's how you can come back here and you know where to position yourself. Because by any means, Cameroon will get there. And Kim, it's been 10 years. I moved back to Cameroon. When we started greenhouses, no one paid attention to anything that we're talking. But I'm sure, I think it was 3 days ago, we had a release on CNN. And to me, it's a big success because, usually you have these small, large media platforms. They would only, promote things that show the crisis in Africa, things that show the misery and poverty. Now we begin to see things that show progress, things that show development. We're talking about introducing a technology that, has existed over 300 years in the Western world, and it's only now making trends in Africa. When you look at the disadvantages that we as Africans are having, where everything we grow is being harvested and it is being processed in another country and then resold back to us in the finished version and at prices where we cannot even afford, it really doesn't make sense. And when you look around, you realize that most of the intellectuals in the world today are Africans. I mean, look at every leading enterprise in the world, you will find an African behind it. And why are we not able to export the knowledge that we acquire from there and to use them in our own backyards where we can have, a developmental success that can become part of a heritage? You see, we need to get that. I am for the fact that I don't deny people moving abroad, but I stand against the fact that when we go there, we totally disregard where we came from. We totally insult where we came from. We totally see where we come from as the evil place for us where we have lived. I think that's very bad.
Yeah.
We need to see America.
I want to be able to catch on the last thing you said. So you lived in America for a couple of years. America shaped your perception on things, and you were able to move back to make this massive change in the landscape of agriculture that we see today. And now CNN is, showing your work and everything that you've been able to accomplish so far. How people get caught up in the American system, right, and do not want to move back to Cameroon or make any form of change. So how were you able to, push yourself, out of the system to be able to make this change in Cameroon? Can you just highlight on the specific things, like what really motivated you, and how can people in America or people who even aspire to go to America be able to know that, look, I'm not leaving Cameroon or Nigeria or South Africa or Africa in general, but I'm going to get an education to come back and make a change back home? Can you just highlight on that, and then we can go to the Q&A section later in a few minutes, in just 3 minutes.
Yes, the first point of success was just the mindset. America has a way of reformatting your mindset once you get there. And even does that to us while we're here. When you sit here and you watch American TV, you don't see that America probably has a higher homelessness rate than we have here in Cameroon. You probably don't realize that America, there are people who are still more poor than poorer Cameroonians. You don't realize that you still have illiterates that live in America. You don't see the the dark side of America. You don't know that there are parts of America where pussy use the pit toilets. You know, you don't see that. I think the thing is getting there. It's being able to maintain a mindset. For me, and I'll tell you, my little secret was when I went to America, I wanted to live with the mindset of the white guy. It was very important. There was a point in my life, I think there were 3 to 4 years where I was living basically like a white guy, and, not anything racial here, but I think these are stereotypes that are so real. You would find that you would have the white guy who has, wears one trouser from Monday to Saturday, has one suit that he might wear to occasions, has one pair of shoes that he has every day, and pretty much lives a good life. It is usually us who go and we want to drive the big cars, live in the big houses, buy every outfit every weekend, and all of that. So I went into a very conservative lifestyle, and that enabled me to understand America a lot better. Once you get into that mode, you understand that America is basically a consumer society, and everything they promote is what is the America which you have to consume. If you look at the top Americans, they are not consumers, they are producers. They are always at the edge of producing things, and they don't even consume the things that they do produce. If you look at someone like Elon Musk, go to his parking lot, find out how many Teslas he has. But you'll find out a typical, African-American who has just made some money, he's packed about 10 Teslas in front of his house. And that's just the mindset that America puts you in. If you are able to live in America without being caught up with that American mentality, believe me, you can succeed almost anywhere else. So I think for me, it was just being able to maintain a very conservative mindset and not getting caught up. I remember one time I made a resolution not to live on any credit card and not to do anything on credit in America. I left America without credit. So not having to bother about having a credit history, not having to bother about trying to buy a house, trying to own a student loan, or having a credit card, or any of those things. I stayed away from them. And I wanted to just live a life that was strictly cash. If I didn't have the cash, I don't do it. That was just me. Again, that can be very difficult for some people to attend that, but that was just me because I think I already had a view of what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to move out of America, so I wasn't planning to be there or have anything that would hold me back. My family from get-go, I made them understand that as soon as I'm done with school, we're moving to America. I believe that I could do a lot more in Cameroon than I could do in America, because if I was in America today, I would typically be an employee to somebody. And you know it. Once you're an employee, you just work, you retire, you end up at the group home and you try to catch up with vacations here and there. But at the end of the day, after you work, you're tired, you're done. By the time you tell yourself that, you want to work, you want to acquire money to come and invest in Cameroon, it's almost an impossible thing, because to invest in Cameroon, you have to be there. And that's something that I will take a little, these few moments to let people know. For you to invest in Cameroon, you have to be there. Don't install the investments in Cameroon where you want to just send money and expect people to do things. Cameroonians are not yet in the mindset where they understand business development, business growth, business investment. They don't understand that. You want to do something in Cameroon, you have to be there. So don't be the guy who wants to work money there and then send here for things to be done and expect those things to be done. Unless you are ready to hire experts from some other parts who understand the vision to be able to do things for you, which is why even me, who is in Cameroon, my top line executives are not Cameroonians. I have people from other countries who are working with me, because these are people who understand the vision of what we're doing. And my whole idea is that they come in and they're able to transfer that knowledge to our own local Cameroonian teams. And with time, they can go back and Cameroonians can carry on. But for you to just expect that because a Cameroonian has a bachelor's degree in geography, they will understand all those things. No, they still have to be trained on the field. And of course, even in America, we do that. There is no job that you go to where you don't get trained, but we don't understand that training aspect in Cameroon when you're offering jobs to individuals. So there are many things that I believe that, once you're there, you get to acquire. But like I said again, the key thing is having a mindset that keeps you very conservative, a mindset that doesn't get you caught up within the American, ecosystem that makes you believe that, You must have a credit card to live. You must live in a big house. You must buy 4 or 5 cars. You must have outfits every week. You must attend, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't have a problem with anybody doing that, but I think there are levels to this. If you want to be able to make it in certain ways, then you have to be able to make those sacrifices,
I totally agree
Don't be
with that,
be the person who wants to build skyscrapers and then you are living the life that does not warrant you to do that. There are sacrifices that you have to make, and they have to be very, very realistic as a whole. So I think the aspect of understanding the reality of America and living with those realities is very important in terms of how you shape your way, how you shape yourself, and how you move along. And the last thing, Kim, sorry, the last thing to share on that is, your success in America really depends greatly on who you meet in America. It's very, very important. The person you meet and the first things you get to do, the person's footsteps you decide to follow while you're there is very, very important. So these are things that people need to make conscious decisions of to be able to get themselves in the system. Because yes, once you take that first step, if it is a wrong step, believe me, it will be your worst mistake. Our mistakes, we make them from the very first day we come in. And the bad thing is that by the time we realize that we made a mistake, it's already too late. So many a times you just be like, oh, well, whatever, let me just live it. It's one life to live. You only live once. You just do it, and, who cares? So it's really that. And it's sad when people get to that point because it's almost, you cannot return. I mean, that's why you find somebody who's lived in America for 40, 50 years, and there's not much they can show you. They'll tell you all the things that, oh, I've been here, but I mean, what is it you can show? And you can't have it. And the people who've been there to a point where they cannot move back. And yes, it's better just consider yourself an American than keep saying that, well, no, I'm not American and this and that. But these are topics that we can talk all day long. I'm happy that we have an opportunity to share this. I will be glad to take any questions, and I have any specific answers to some questions out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. It was so invaluable. I absolutely love the last thing you said, who you meet. Who you meet is it's a determinant, to your success. So I'm so glad that you were able to fit in that last point. Thank you so much, Roland. Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Dr. Bosede. So right now we'll go into our question and answer session. I've sent 2 questions in the chat box. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box so the panelists can be able to address your concerns. Elvis Chia is asking, can someone with a 1 year's master's in the UK get admission for PhD in the USA? Dr. Bosede, I think that question is addressed to you. Can you please answer that?
I think I already answered the question. I sent an answer to the person that asked. Canada actually frowns at 1 year master's degrees. They want your master's degree to be at least 18 months, usually 2 years, because they prefer that there is a research content in your master's degree for you to be able to show that you are able to do a full research program for your PhD. So that could be an issue, but it's not impossible. So that's what I would say. It's not impossible. You just need to come up with a good proposal and then be able to show that you can do research. And the only way to do that is present, in your application package, you have to present what research you've done before. That's what we require, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. There's some noise coming from someone. Please can you mute yourself if you're not speaking? So thank you, Dr. Bosede, for that. We have just a few more minutes to the end of the program. It's scheduled to be up to 3 p.m. my time, that's 4 p.m. in Cameroon. So Praise is asking, please get your questions as soon as possible before we come to the end. So Praise is asking, my first degree course isn't really related to the course I have in mind for master's. Can Udemy courses help? Dr. Bosede, would you want to take that?
If she's asking about admission, no. Udemy courses are not acceptable for admissions. So if, let me say, I don't know what first degree he or she might be referring to, but it also depends on the relationship between the first degree course and then what the person wants to do for masters. Okay, I think I should understand that from, okay, I think I know the person asking this question. So I will say it depends, but for your case, let me elaborate on that. This person studied physics for a first degree and is interested in some computer studies. Yes, that can work because there's a relationship. There's a way you can build your argument around that. But what usually will cause problem is you studied English for first degree and then you want to do mechanical engineering for second degree. There's absolutely no relationship. So these are like, two opposing ends. So something that is related, yes, will work. And that's why when I was speaking earlier, I mentioned something about building a story. Where are you going? Then you can tell the story of where you are coming from and through the journey to where you are going. So for example, like this case, you read physics, and physics has a lot of electronic content when you are doing a first degree program. So through that, you could say, okay, you have been interested in something that is related to that in the computer science field. And so you can build a story around your study in physics and then show how your interest has grown over time to what you now want to study in computer science. So that story can be told.
Okay, so Praise, I hope that answered your question. If you have any more questions, you can ask them to follow up. So Elvis is asking a question directed at Roland. Is it possible to easily get into the Cameroonian system for someone who wants to serve with the public service?
Yes, so that question, it depends again on several things. When you talk, you want to serve the public service, it's very wide, there are processes and procedures of you going through, the service here, and it depends what aspect. But to be honest with you, the Cameroon system is very open and very attractive, especially to us in the diaspora, because people who are in positions of leadership now or decision making, there are people who understand value. There are people who understand work ethic. There are people who want to see things actually go well in the right direction. The sad thing is that many a times they cast out, that net, and you really don't have qualified individuals. You see, one of the greatest problems that Cameroon has is the workforce. Human resource, and every employer here would tell you that, which is why you still have a lot of, expatriates who still have to come here and work. So we are actually at an advantage right now in Cameroon. We who studied abroad, lived abroad, and have moved back into the country. Believe me, there are many, service sectors that will take you, be it the private or the public sector, because yes, being out there, there is some level of professional ethics, which you already understand, you cling to, and you certainly will be attractive. Secondly, there are many companies that are moving into Cameroon. And why Cameroon? Because Cameroon is the main country in the CEMAC region. So there are many countries who have the headquarters in Cameroon and branches in countries like Central Africa, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Ivory Coast, and all of that. So Cameroon remains that hub, and there are so many opportunities, believe me. And the salary is quite interesting too. Cameroonian employers are even company heads are beginning to understand that it's better now to employ a diasporan who was returned back to Cameroon than bringing in a white person. Because yes, there is more to pay for when you have a white person living here than someone like me who moved back home and is doing things. So I think we have that opportunity. So if you are looking to maybe move back to Cameroon, it should be something that you take time, you should study. And you have to know you're coming to a system where things are not as perfect as you want them. The challenge is that some people live from the UK or from anywhere, come here, and then they thought Cameroon, oh, it's not like this, but Cameroon is not the UK, it's not the US, you know. People are paid here on salaries, not, you know, there's no clocking in and clocking out, you know, we still don't have that. So there's still many things that you would have to deal with, but believe me, after I've been here for 10 years, I think things are moving forward, because 10 years ago and now, it's like night and day. A lot has changed. Many people might not see it, but you have to be here to see these realities and understand how you can be a part of that. So yes, to that question, I think it is easier for you to live from there and get something here, but it's something that you need to do your research. Is something that you need to also find out where exactly you want to go to, and putting the right application in the right places. It is true that, you know, in some cases that people will still want to favor who they know and this and that, but it is everywhere. In America, in the UK, in Italy, it is everywhere. You know, it happens everywhere. So you just find a way, get your networks, and get in. The key thing is that people here, they need qualified labor, they need talent, and they would be ready to put that money for that talent. You just have to find a way to get in front of the line and prove yourself.
Yeah, I couldn't agree any less. Thank you so much for that response. And there's also another comment. Is it really a question? It's a comment from Full Bless. He says, I am particularly impressed at the achievement of Mr. Roland so far and his guts to come back and invest in Cameroon. I wish to find out if he wasn't frightened by the Cameroon tax system. I believe there are lots of Cameroonians in the diaspora who share the same kind of vision of development like you, but their dreams are shattered by the tax system. So if you can just take a minute to just highlight on that, I would appreciate it. Just a minute.
No, thank you so much. I think that's probably the best question that I'm getting, and believe me, I stand in the very best position to give an answer to that. Believe me, listen this from me. The Cameroon tax system is one of the best. The irony is that any person still telling you that tax has gone up and down, you probably haven't had a business here. And you probably really haven't understood the tax system. Unlike the American system, the Cameroon tax system is a declarative system. It's very important. It's declarative, but it's also delicate. What does it mean? You declare your taxes every month, okay, Kim? You declare your taxes every month, and it is you to tell the tax person what you make, what you didn't make. You understand? And these are things that we can talk again off camera. You are the ones to declare that I made this and I didn't make this. In America, you're not the one to tell them. Everything is already in the system. So it is different. The problem is that if you fail, you know, if you have to declare tax on the 15th of February and you fail to do it on the 15th of February, you get a penalty. And that's where most people always get into problems. When you fail and then you have that penalty, it's a penalty that would always keep you out of business. So yes, there is a tax system in place, but it's still very traditional as far as I know. And that is also why, if you understand that you might have challenging taxes, then look for a business that does not really put you in loggerhead with taxation. Agriculture is a tax-free, you know, industry. You will never see a farm that has been sealed someday because the farm owner didn't pay taxes. You get me? So sometimes you really need to, like you say, cut your code according to your size. Don't come into an industry where you have all the big sharks and the big heads, and then you want to go compete against them. I mean, believe me, even in America, they'll do it to you. They'll find a way to shut you down. And if the way to shut it down is through the tax system or the tax personality, they'll use that. Usually that's always the loophole that many people would get to use. But again, think of a business that you know that keeps you free from some strangers and entanglements, and you'll be able to make a lot of gains from that. Like I say, agriculture is one safe haven, and I always promote that because you will never hear that they have sealed any farm because they didn't pay taxes. You will never hear the buy and sell or any person anywhere selling food tell that, oh, taxation came here today and did that and that. If you want to come here and you want to go do the business where everyone is already doing it, people are competing, yes, you might run into trouble. And the best way for somebody to get you, which if we had more time, I could explain to you how Yes, someone can get a tax system to get after you, and that's what makes many people become more vulnerable. But I still don't think that the tax system here, it's really the problem. The problem is actually the people, for me. And I would say that, for me, it is the people, it's not really the tax system. Because the people who actually do the tax are the people. And I mean, how do other businesses do it? Think about all the Chinese who are coming into Cameroon, all the Lebanese who are here, all the French, all the Americans. How are they doing it? We Cameroonians are the only ones who are complaining about taxing. And then what about the other? I mean, look, just go out on the street and see how many Chinese are building, how many Lebanese are building, how many French, how many Turkish. How are they doing it? Are they not going through the same system that we're doing it? So let's find a way to be able to do what these guys are doing and find out what they're doing that we're not doing. And I'm sure that we'll be able to make some successes right there. Many times we just hear the complaints that others have given, tax, government, politics, and we give that same complaint. It is not really the case. Come to Cameroon and talk to people. Don't read newspapers, don't read Facebook and want to come do business in Cameroon. People like us, we're here. I think, Kim, you can attest to that. I have a very open flat platform. I communicate a lot. I think I am always of service to people as much as I can have the time. Come to people. We here, we understand some things. We have some networks. We know some people. That's all it takes. The new world we are building today is one which, is built on solidarity, is built on collaborations, and it's built on collective growth. So, hey, again, I'm here. If I can be of assistance to anyone, don't feel free to reach out. You can always easily get me on Facebook, send me a Facebook Messenger message, get through Kim, and you would always be able to get to me. I am online, my website is right there. So any way that I can be of assistance, I believe that it is time for us, the diasporans, to move back home and make these things happen. Because believe me, if we don't, the next 10, 15, 20 years, we would have different nationals ruling Cameroon, and it would not be a pretty sight for most
Absolutely.
of us. We need to come back to our country.
Yeah.
Things are changing quite often, and this is our own time for us to make it. And believe me, if you come to Cameroon and live for about 6 months, we realize that, the pressures you get when you're abroad, you don't get them. Kim, I'm sure the last time you came to Cameroon, you enjoyed your time here. I think people need to start understanding that at a certain time, it is the quality of life is what is important and not the quantity of life. So let's take that as a go-home message and see how we can look at Cameroon as a promised land than a line, of dying promises.
Yeah, so thank you so much for that. Thank you. I actually like the fact that there was a balance of opinions and contributions in today's webinar. So as much as we're here to talk about studying in America, we also want you to be able to study there and return to make the necessary developments that we need to be able to grow. And that all boils down to the mindsets we have. Other people are able to move into Cameroon or into Nigeria and be able to establish investments and of course make money for themselves. So we cannot pass on excuses, that our systems are bad or all whatnot, to be able to live in another person's country. So get the education and return and make an impact. That is what we want. And that's the take-home message we're leaving from here today. So Dr. Bosede made a promise to the people who attended this webinar today. If you attended to the end, I think everybody has. Thank you so much for attending to the end. You have a waiver of the service fee for your US application, US student college, whatever application. So you have a service fee waiver from Arrows Transactions. So please take advantage of this waiver and see how you can make your study abroad dreams come true. So Steven, thank you. Thank you, Roland. Thank you, Dr. Bosede. Please take some time to leave us some feedback. We'd like to know what you thought about this webinar today. And also you can drop us comments to encourage us on Facebook or whatever social media you prefer to use. We're available on Facebook, we're available on Instagram, we're also available on LinkedIn. We'd like to know your thoughts. And we also have other sessions, like I mentioned, coming up in the next couple of months. So we will be tackling or discussing other countries. Please stay updated with us on Facebook and you would get to know which session is coming up next or which session we're going to handle next. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed this. We've come to the end of today's webinar. Thank you and see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you for everyone. We'll stay in touch.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.